Hello, and welcome to my live video. A few weeks ago, I had an Instagram story and I asked people to vote on what topic they wanted to hear me speak about. And one of the topics that came up was shooting a wedding and being in that same wedding as a bridesmaid or groomsman. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. I realize it's been about 6 months actually since I did that for my brother-in-law and sister-in-law. And I could make like a really nice video. My intention was to make a really nice video. And then I was listening to a podcast the other day and it said, done and out there is better than perfect, but still in your mind and not shared. So I just decided that I would just put it out there here on Instagram stories. I'll also publish it to my YouTube channel, and I will also post a blog post with a little bit more information. I'll put some behind the scenes shots and then some final shots of the wedding and how the wedding looked. So, so basically this is about being in a wedding as a bridesmaid or groomsman and shooting the wedding as a wedding photographer. So in my circumstance, I was actually a groom's lady for my brother-in-law in November of 2017. And I was standing on my brother-in-law's side as a way to represent my late husband, and this was very important to me. So this was my gift to them. And I volunteered to do the photography. And I know online there are, I've just read about it over the years, there are a few photographers who have done this before. Namely, I can think of off the top of my head, Amy and Jordan have done this. They're out in Arizona. And Caitlin James has also done this, and they have both written about it. However, I had only found husband and wife teams who had done this. And actually, here in Pittsburgh, my friend Chrissy Olson, her and her husband, Sal and Bella Photography, I believe her husband primarily shot her sister's wedding, or their sister's wedding, while Chrissy was in the wedding as matron of honor. So it's been done before, but I've only heard of husband and wife teams doing it. I am not a husband and wife team. So I decided as a solo shooter, I was going to kind of explain how I did this, write an article about it, and do a little question and answer. Okay, so first question. Is this a good idea? So 2017 was my 8th wedding season. I've done about, at the time of that wedding, I had done about 250 weddings at that time. Prior to 2016 and 2017, I would have said, and I think I have said before when people have asked on Rising Tide or other forums online, I have said that this is a bad idea and don't do it. And the reason is, personally myself, until 2016, 2017, I don't feel that I had the support and systems and experience level in place yet to be able to do this. So I would have previously encouraged people to have their sister or best friend or college roommate hire someone instead. But my thoughts on this changed in 2017. It's because I had more systems in place, more support. In 2017, I had an office assistant, so that was able to free me up a bit personally and professionally to be able to carve the time out and enjoy more of the wedding planning process for my sister-in-law and brother-in-law, be able to go to the bachelor and bachelorette party. Previously, back in like 13, 14, I still edited my own stuff, so I pretty much never would leave the house during the wedding season, April to November. So prior to 2017, I wouldn't even have been able to enjoy the process and enjoy the wedding as much as I did. And I've had an editor for a few years. We have a good system in place. And the wedding that I was in and photographed for my sister-in-law and brother-in-law was in November. So that is at the crazy busy end of the year. For me in Pittsburgh, October is my busiest time. So having a wedding the first weekend of November, it's a crazy time. Luckily, I did have an office assistant part-time at the time. I had an editor who has been with me for about 4 or 5 seasons now. So we had a really good system in place. And something else that changed my mind was experiencing this on the other side. So in October of 16, my friend Charlene of Custom Portraits by Charlene was a bridesmaid in a wedding for her very, very, very good friend, also named Kristen. And we arranged that I would shoot it and she would edit it. So, and she was going to shoot just depending on her feeling for the day, at her discretion. She was going to shoot it. So, just for fun, basically. So I actually ended up, I don't think she really shot too much that day. I ended up shooting like 99% of it. Me and my assistant Allison did. So that kind of introduced me to how this kind of system could work and this support structure could work. So generally, I would say, yes, this is a good idea if you are experienced in your career. If you are in year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4 of doing weddings, maybe not. But for me, I was in my 8th wedding season. I felt comfortable to be able to do this. And you need to have your workflow down, supports in place, and you have to have a few other key things fall into place. So what kind of support do you need to have to be able to be in a wedding as a bridesmaid or groomsman and be able to shoot that wedding? So I talked previously about how a lot of husband and wife teams are able to do this. If one of them is in the wedding, or even if they're both in the wedding, they can kind of trade off a little bit. I've already mentioned how I am a solo shooter. I don't have a husband and wife team, but I do have an editor, had an office assistant as well. Then I also had my regular wedding day assistant there. My regular wedding day assistant is my sister Allison. She's awesome. And then I went out and hired another person. I hired a friend, Weddings by Alyssa, and I hired her to shoot all the things that I couldn't. So, for example, she was going to shoot and did shoot all the bridal party pictures or family pictures that I was in, that sort of thing. What is the price? What is the going rate to hire someone to shoot for you on a wedding day as sort of not a second shooter, but as the primary shooter, right? I paid 2 times the going rate for second shooters. So you can kind of figure out what that is in your city. And I'm already on the high side of paying second shooters. So about 2 times the going rate. So obviously they're taking a primary role for some parts of the day. They need to be really, really, really good. And it's my gift to the couple. So obviously husband and wife teams will have a different work distribution, but this is my gift to the couple as well as engagement photos. And also in that way, so that's something else that we could talk about, hurting our industry versus helping our industry. If you are constantly as a photographer doing free wedding for your sister, your cousin, your college roommate, your friend, your old neighbor, if everybody just does one free wedding a year, you have to think about how that is affecting our industry. And, everybody's going to know somebody that can then give them, free wedding photography. So in that way, in hiring Alyssa to shoot with me for the day, I didn't undermine our industry or undermine our pricing. I was still able to support a small local business, a local photographer, and that kind of thing. Second question, should you just in general, not even just being a bridesmaid or groomsman in the wedding, but should you do weddings for friends? That is more of a philosophical question, and you have to decide that for yourself. Should you do weddings for friends, cousins? Look, you probably know the kind of friends that you can do weddings for and the kind of friends that you should tell to hire a photographer. They have to be easygoing. They have to be, nice people, easygoing people to be able to work for friends. It's always difficult to work for friends, so that's something to keep in mind. Okay, so here are about 10 tips that I put together for being a bridesmaid or groomsman in a wedding and still photographing that wedding. Okay, first, you are going to have to be selfless, especially women out there, in ignoring your own hair and makeup and your outfit, right? So if you are a bridesmaid in a wedding or maid of honor in a wedding, you're going to have the option or choice to stay perfectly dressed all day, be touching up your makeup, and be helping the bride, yes, but also it's a special day for you too, right? If you offer to shoot a wedding and be in a wedding, know that you're not going to go down the aisle looking pristine, in my opinion. At least I didn't. So your hair and makeup is going to take a hit, and you have to accept that. And my advice to you is go first. So get there early, be the first lady for female photographers out there, be the first lady to get your hair and makeup done, get done. If it's done by a pro, it'll stay all day, and just go with it. I know my hair did get messed up from my camera strap. Oh well, gotta let it roll. Okay, my second tip is outfits. So think about realistically, again, females especially, what you can do in the outfit that your sister or your friend or your cousin, the bride, picked out. So if you're wearing a floor length, tight beaded gown, you might end up with snags and that kind of thing. So you need to think about this and come prepared. In my case, we wore a short dress, so that was a little bit easier. And, I wore basically almost a leotard underneath it because I wasn't sure if I was going to actually have to unzip the dress, put on like an old t-shirt, shoot, and then, unzip the dress, put on an old t-shirt, shoot, and then put the dress back on. Luckily, I did not have to do that. But you might want to wear Spanx shorts or like tight shorts underneath, put a shirt over, maybe to keep the dress from getting snagged, that kind of thing. Okay, my third tip for this is to shoot all of the details in advance that you can do, everything except floral. You probably will not be able to shoot the floral in advance, but unless it's fake floral, but you want to shoot everything in advance. So I think I shot my brother-in-law and sister-in-law's details, and by that I mean gown, garters, shoes, jewelry, engagement ring, wedding band, save the date cards, invitations, programs, all that little stuff, rings, that kind of stuff. I shot on Wednesday night for a Saturday wedding. So something to kind of think about. Actually, no, I think I actually shot them the Sunday before, so gave myself a nice buffer. You can shoot them. It's just going to take a huge pressure. I know that not every photographer advocates this. I highly advocate this. And something you can do too, since you won't have the floral, ask the bride, what kind of floral are you having? And then she'll tell you. And then you can go online, go to Costco if you want to, get either fake flowers or get real flowers that look very similar to her flowers to stage for the detail photos, for the flat lays and all that kind of stuff. So you can definitely do that, and it makes it easier. Shoot everything, every single thing that you can shoot in advance, shoot in advance. And then even shoot the hall the night before if you can. So if they're decorating the hall or barn the night before, shoot that. Centerpieces, all that kind of stuff. Shoot it. Shoot your exteriors the day before if you can. Like literally every single thing you can shoot before that day. Number 4, think about realistically. Can you do this, and what kind of wedding is this? If this is a 4-day, multi-day like celebration that goes from sunup to sundown, like an Indian wedding, for example, you probably cannot shoot this alone, especially if it's very elaborate. Several of the weddings I've seen online that have been shot by photographers who have also been in the wedding have been more like barn style weddings. And that's exactly what my sister-in-law and brother-in-law had. So it was a more chill wedding. They didn't even do like a formal first dance. They didn't have a lot of reception type events. So that's going to help too. It's harder to shoot maybe like an extremely elaborate Catholic mass and full scale ballroom wedding, just because the times are a little tighter. You won't be able to shoot details the night before, that kind of stuff. So if they're chill people having like a very relaxed wedding, it's way easier to do. Okay, number 5, my tip, this is an advantage you're going to have. So you are going to have more control over this than a regular wedding that is paid for by the client, right? And you are going to be able to also give more generously in some ways. So for example, you are going to be able to shoot those details in advance. That shaves a few hours off. So you're not, you wouldn't be able to do that for a regular client, reserve 2 days for essentially one wedding. You're also probably going to be able to call in vendor favors, or at the very least, maybe work some vendor deals for them, or at least point them in the right direction for good vendors, and also maybe be able to stretch that budget. You can also contribute some of your own money if you know that it's going to make the photography better in a way that you wouldn't probably feel comfortable with a client. For example, purchasing some nice items for those detail shots, suggesting things that you know would make the photos better, whether it's, transportation to a location, different kind of bouquet, that kind of thing that you wouldn't feel comfortable with a regular client doing, because it's not your place with a regular client to tell them how to spend the budget. It maybe is your place a little bit more with like your sister-in-law or brother-in-law. Also, if you can, my advice to you is to highly suggest a time of year that you are not booked. So this is way easier for me in Pittsburgh. We're in April to November season generally. So if I had a very close friend or, my own brother getting married, I would highly push them towards like January, February, March. So, and not like Memorial Day weekend, for example. Okay. Also think about your relationship with the person and if you should shoot this. So for my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law, absolutely no problem. I wanted to shoot it for them. I was excited to shoot it for them. However, the way I experienced that wedding is going to be different than the way I would want to experience my own sister's wedding. So if it's the sibling that's like absolutely closest to you, it's your sister and you guys are super close, I probably wouldn't shoot my sister's wedding, just throwing it out there. Because for that day, I just want to be fully present and just focusing on just being the sister of the bride versus sister-in-law, brother-in-law, or even my brother, a little bit more comfortable. So think about your relationship to the person. If it's your maid of honor, if it's absolute like best friend in the world, I don't know if I would do it. Okay. Number 7, write out every single step and really visualize the day. So I'm talking about, typing out or writing out Friday night, what you're going to pack in the car, then what you're going to shoot on Friday, right? Then what you're going to shoot, then what time you're going to get up on Saturday, what you have to do on Saturday, when you're going to put your outfit on Saturday, when you're going to go to the guys on Saturday, shoot the guys, come back, shoot the girls, type it all out, and go into explicit detail. For example, put down when you're going to put on your jewelry, because I even forgot to put on my earrings till pretty late in the day. So just little things like that. Envision all of that. Also, write down who shoots what on your team. What I'm going to shoot, what my assistant Allison shot, and what my friend Alyssa shot. All of that's going to be broken up and color-coded on what we're going to shoot so there's no confusion at all. Another thing to think about too is... this is tip 7A, because I don't have this written out, but in general, you're probably going to have to refrain from enjoying alcohol at the event. Not a big deal for me. I don't drink, but in general, you're going to experience it differently. You're going to cut loose as much as a client's, as a wedding if you're just attending as a guest, not if you were, shooting the wedding. So you're going to kind of have to be a little more controlled there. Okay. Number 8. Maybe this will actually work out for you to feel more comfortable behind the camera than you would attending as a guest. So a lot of photographers, sometimes we just feel more comfortable in a social situation if we can hide behind the camera. I know I do for sure. I like having a job at a social situation. And think about it at weddings. There's always that aunt that wants to have a job, right? She wants to be the guest book person or the cookie table refiller. Some people just feel better and more comfortable if they have something to do. And that's definitely me, for sure. So you may actually, as a photographer, feel more comfortable behind the camera than you would just attending and socializing, especially depending on your relationship with that person. This was my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, so it's my in-laws and their family, and I'm totally comfortable with them. But I just love having that security blanket of the camera in front of my face and something to do. It's just who I am. So that might be the case for you. So that's a tip for introverts out there and a lot of photographers. Okay, number 9 basically has to deal with a lot of Pittsburgh folks and other Seattle folks and folks of the Mid-Atlantic. Just pray it doesn't rain. So I think it's going to make your job infinitely harder. Before the wedding, they were calling for rain before the wedding I was in, and I just hoped and prayed it didn't rain. I tried to think up some backup scenarios. There weren't a ton, but I did come up with some as far as covered areas. But know that if it rains, you as a wedding party member and photographer are probably going to be soaking wet and look like a drowned rat. Normally, that's fine if I'm just a photographer at the wedding. I don't care how I look. But you might want to think, and I even did, I wrote down, bring a hairdryer, bring a curling iron, to think about, having to freshen up in the bathroom, bring rain boots, a full rain jacket, a bonnet, all that kind of stuff, if that's important to you and if you live in Pittsburgh. So definitely something to think about. And when it turned out it didn't rain, I think it sprinkled, very lightly for a couple seconds. Man, it made my job infinitely easier. So pray it doesn't rain, pray the weather cooperates. And actually, I do have an idea that could help if it rains, but I'll get to that in a minute. Okay, and my number 10 tip is no additional responsibilities for you. So I think it's very hard to be in a wedding and shoot the wedding and then also be the one that's going to bring breakfast in the morning, or the one that's going to decorate the hall in the morning, or, giving a speech at the reception, or singing a song, playing your instrument at the wedding. Like, in my mind, this is for my sanity, I needed no additional responsibilities. So, for example, when they were divvying up who was going to bring breakfast in the morning, I was like, oh, I'm on cups and plates, because that doesn't involve me having to do it that morning when I'm also trying to boot up my camera flashes and start shooting some of the getting ready process and being the first one to get ready. So just no additional responsibilities. And that might even extend to you're already giving this super generous gift of wedding photography. Maybe you don't host the bridal shower. You've got a lot going on. So I think for me, my priorities were just being there for them and experiencing the wedding, which is number one. And then underneath that, photographing the wedding is my second priority. And then I had no other priorities. I don't want to be the one bustling the dress. I don't want to be the one filling up the cookie table. I don't want to be the one walking grandma down the aisle. No other responsibilities for you if you're doing this. So that's my tip to you. So you could be the cups and plates person like I was. Okay, what I would have done differently. So lessons that I learned. Okay, so this I didn't have to learn this the hard way, but do not do another wedding that weekend. I have had photographer friends who have had to do a wedding either the day before or the day after, their best friend's wedding, or the day before their sister's wedding. For me, there's a limit to what I can do. So I was fortunate enough, actually, I had the next weekend off too, which is perfect. So I had a wedding the week before theirs, and then their wedding, and then no wedding the week after, which was great because it let me get caught up on my editing and everything. So I would say don't do wedding the next day. Don't do wedding the day before. Try to block that whole weekend for them if you at all can. And that's where you can kind of give your influence on the date. When they start talking about dates, if you feel that they might want the gift of photography, you can kind of push them towards a date that you have available. And then, so something else that I would do is, and this is kind of on me, I probably would encourage the first look more. My brother-in-law and sister-in-law didn't do the first look, and that's fine. The timing worked out just fine. But, as a photographer, it's mostly easier if a couple does the first look in certain situations, like bad weather situations, fall where the sun sets early, or ceremony reception in the same place, no gap, right? So definitely I would have encouraged the first look a little bit more, maybe from the get-go. I do understand people don't always want to do that, but I probably would have talked it up a little more. And I think if I did another one, just because I felt a little uncomfortable, taking them away from the ceremony location, shooting all this stuff, and then I wanted to do my absolute best job and then getting them back for the reception. So, definitely think about maybe even making your offer of hey, I'd love to do your wedding photography for free if you do your pictures before the ceremony. So it's something to think about. But in the end, it worked out, and I was really super happy with what I got. And again, this was a very relaxed and chill couple, so we didn't have to be at the reception at a specific time. Okay, and then another thing I would do is I would consider a day after session. This can save your butt if it rains, or it could save your butt from having to do all this during the wedding. So maybe you let someone else shoot the wedding and you offer a day after or week after couples portrait session to the couple at another time. That might work out great if you're not wanting to do the entire wedding and be in it. Also, if it's really raining and you're just both getting all destroyed, you and the bride, you can maybe say, let's do a day after session. I think the key with a day after session, though, is I have heard photographers, just in general, with their normal clients and when they're in weddings and shooting weddings, saying, well, I just said, the day of the wedding, hey, let's come back out tomorrow and do portraits. I don't know that that's the best time to approach it, because people have brunches and family members in town and things planned for the next day, plus hair, makeup, and flowers may not last. I think if you want to do a day after session, in general, in my career, all the times I've done it, we've pre-arranged it, and I've had a strong, solid verbal or written commitment to it. Because I think the fear is okay, let's go back out tomorrow and get pictures, and then tomorrow rolls around and they're tired. You call them, you're like, hey, you guys ready to roll? And they're like, oh, we're not going to do it now. Now you have no pictures of the couple. So only, I think, one time in my career have I done an impromptu day after, and that was because we were on the beach in Florida. It was torrential rain, and they came all the way to Florida. They were from Pennsylvania. So we just weren't going to be able to get those beach pictures. So we did all get up at 5 o'clock the next day and shoot those beach pictures. So I just recommend, day after session, but pre-arrange it. Be easier on you. Okay. So then, what do you do? So if all these tips made you think maybe I won't do this for them, what can you do? So if you have the budget and you can give super generously, maybe you hire a wonderful photographer to do it for them, and you edit it, or maybe you don't even edit it. For my own sister, I know I would definitely want to hire someone like nationally known, one of the best photographers out there, someone whose work I love, because I just want to experience it fully and be in the moment. So that's something that you can do. Again, I have done that for my friend Charlene. She was in a wedding as a bridesmaid. I shot it, turned all the files over to her. Or, for someone like my sister, I would just want the photographer to handle everything. I don't want to edit that wedding. So that's an option. And I completely get the temptation to want to shoot it yourself because A, you're a control freak if you're like me, and B, it is your reputation out there, right? You don't want someone to see work that you don't like. It's your sister or brother's wedding and say, oh my gosh, did Kristen do those pictures? And you didn't do them. Or even worse, why did Kristen let them have those pictures? They're not good. So I totally get the temptation. And that's one of the reasons why, I was so flattered to be asked to be in the wedding for my brother-in-law and sister-in-law. I was really excited. It was the first wedding that I was ever in. I've only photographed my friends' weddings before. I've never been in one. So I was really fangirling out about it. I was so excited. But then I also said, well, who's going to do the pictures? And so they kind of had some ideas, and I said, well, I'll try to do both. So it's just because I just wanted them to be so good, and I just wanted to, put forth my full effort into it, and I just wanted to give them that gift, to have it be as generous. So I wanted them to be able to have that, and I just wanted to do a really good job for them. So I kind of came up with that idea on the spur of the moment, but I did my research. So do your research, write everything out, know when to bring in support, pray it doesn't rain, be smart about it, and hopefully you'll have a ton of success. I think the wedding was one of my favorite ones because I have such an emotional connection to the couple, but also very emotional day, and I'm very happy and proud of the work that we did. And of course, I have Allison to thank, Alyssa to thank, my editor Amy to thank for it. So I definitely didn't do it by myself, but it is possible as a solo shooter to do it. You're going to have to come out of your pocket a little bit to get some help, but it's definitely possible. And if you're considering doing it, let me know if you have any questions. You can always email me about it. And I'm going to put on the blog post, I'll write out all the tips because some people aren't going to watch a long video. I will put a little example of some of the behind the scenes stuff, and I'll put some of the finished product there so you can see it. And that's how it'll go. So thank you guys so much for tuning in or for watching here on Insta Stories. And I just wanted to share the story with you about how to be in a wedding as a bridesmaid or groomsman and yet still photograph the wedding if you are daring and brave enough to do it. Thanks, guys. Have a great night.